2 days before her tragic death, Amy Winehouse made a heartbreaking confession to her bodyguard, one that revealed just how much fame had cost her. It was a rare moment of honesty, stripped of the chaos, the music, and the cameras. For years, the world had watched her soar to stardom and then slowly unravel under the weight of addiction, heartbreak, and relentless public scrutiny. This is a Tales That Tell video. Please consider subscribing to our channel and liking our content. Her words in those final days still haunt those who knew her best. Amy Jade Winehouse was born on September 14, 1983, in London, England. Her father, Mitchell "Mitch" Winehouse, and her mother, Janice Winehouse, had one child 4 years prior, Alex. Amy Winehouse's brother would prove to be a reliable retreat for the singer in her most desperate years. When baby Winehouse was born, Alex didn't have a favorable point of view on suddenly having a sibling to share their parents' attention. In a 2013 interview, Alex said, "She smelled and I didn't like it. I just thought, I don't like the smell. I don't like you." This would all change dramatically as they grew up. Neither of her parents were musicians by profession. Mitch was a window panel installer and taxi driver, and her mother was a pharmacist. They were Jewish, and while they weren't religiously dedicated, they participated in many of the cultural aspects. In her early life, Winehouse attended Jewish Sunday school, which she would later claim taught her about being Jewish. Her parents separated when Winehouse was only 9, and she had to split her youth living in London with her mother on weekdays and her father in Essex on weekends. Her primary exposure to music at that point was through her grandmother, Cynthia, who had been a singer. Her father also engaged her interest in song, as he also had an interest in being a singer. The same year her parents divorced, Winehouse had a unique opportunity come her way, one that would help shape her whole future. In 1992, Cynthia encouraged Winehouse to give the Susie Earnshaw Theatre School a chance. There, she learned how to sing and tap dance every Saturday for the next 4 years. The experience was enough to give her a taste of what she loved, and she yearned for a more in-depth music education. But as we'll see, Winehouse craved real-life experience, not classroom lessons. After leaving Susie Earnshaw, Winehouse attended Sylvia Young Theatre School, where she was able to expand her learning. But she also started exploring her rebellious side and pierced her nose while attending the school. She was actually a great student, it seems, with her English teacher claiming she would be a great writer someday. They didn't know how right they would be. After toying around with her brother's guitar, Winehouse got her own. She had already learned how to play and started writing her own music by the time she was 14. By the time she was 16, Winehouse dropped out of school completely to enter the music industry. She worked as an entertainment journalist for the World Entertainment News Network and even sang with a band. Things were going her way, for now. In July 2000, she sang as a featured vocalist with the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, which was one of her first major performances. This would be the start of building her repertoire for her burgeoning career. She kept learning other songs from Frank Sinatra, Dinah Washington, and Sarah Vaughan at home, drawn by their ability to get under the song. They would be the basis of her inspiration as a singer. Her dedication to music was a rock in her life, but even rocks erode with time and pressure. Amy Winehouse's talent was easy to spot. Even her friends and family knew she could be something larger than life, both in personality and in performance. So much so that her friend, Tyler James, made a daring decision on her behalf. He sent a demo of her music to an A&R scout to try get her a record deal. Little did he know this would spark a wildfire of interest in Winehouse's talents. 2002 brought a whole new year of opportunity for Winehouse. She signed with Simon Fuller's 19 Management, and they paid her £250 while they developed her talent. Shockingly, they kept her a secret in the recording industry. All the while, she anonymously sang jazz standards at the Cobden Club. This didn't last much longer, though. While she was performing at the club, she caught the attention of Darkest Beasts, a representative at Island Records. He heard her sing by chance when the Lewinson Brothers manager showed Beast a production she featured on. When Beast asked who the singer was, the Lewinson brothers' manager said he was not allowed to say. This led Beast on a wild goose chase, trying to figure out who the mysterious singer was. He asked around for many months, finding nothing, until finally he discovered who she was. By then, Winehouse had already signed with a different label and had recorded a few songs, but this didn't deter Beast, and he introduced the young singer to Island Records. At the same time, conflict arose between her first label and a third who wanted to sign Winehouse. With two labels vying for her attention, Winehouse chose to sign with Island. She was enticing to them for her atypical pop star aesthetic. She was real and genuine, and she didn't have that polish that so many pop singers had. Her rough around the edges vibe brought her a lot of attention throughout her career, both good and bad. The following year, in October 2003, Winehouse released her first album, titled Frank. Winehouse co-wrote every song on the album, except for the two she covered. The album skyrocketed her into the general knowledge of the music industry, and she won many awards for the album. It seemed like this star was only beginning her upward trajectory. Around the time of the album's release, she met a man who would change her life. Winehouse and Blake Fielder Civil met, and they were completely taken with one another. Until this point, Winehouse had dabbled with THC-based inhalants and drinking, but overall wasn't interested in any other sorts of substances. All this changed when she and charming addict Blake Fielder Civil set out on their unstable relationship. When they met, her manager, Nick Godwin, described her personality shift. He claimed she sounded completely different, more distant. He said that she used to think poorly of those who participated in harder substances. Fielder Civil brought her into the fold of injectable and inhaled narcotics, and her life took a turn. Their relationship was unstable, to say the least. On and off again, their relationship started and stopped as Blake was both unfaithful and incarcerated in several different situations. His behavior went on to influence Winehouse's, and her own personality devolved into something akin to aggressive and withdrawn. Her stance on the unhealthiness of their relationship was tragic. After she and Blake Fielder Civil broke up, not for the last time, his absence left her devastated. She used her sadness as fuel to write more and more music, which would lay the groundwork for her next album. She said, "It sounds such a bad thing to say, but I need to get some headaches going to write about." Little did she know the headache of her relationship would plague her for the rest of her life. In 2005, she had her first major wake-up call from Godwin and her father. Godwin feared she was squandering her talent and life through her increasingly impactful habit. The two tried to convince her that she needed to go to rehab and detoxify from all the substances she was using. She claimed firmly that doing so was unnecessary, and she wrote one of her most famous songs about the incident. But her initial resistance to rehab would soon be quelled by the severity of her illness. In 2006, Winehouse lost an important person in her life. Her grandmother, Cynthia, passed halfway through the year, several months before the release of the singer's upcoming album. Cynthia was someone who encouraged her endlessly, and the loss was destabilizing for the singer. She turned even more towards the relief of substances, but this would have a detrimental impact on her ability to perform. She channeled this additional misery into recording. She released her second album, Back to Black, in October 2006, the same year as her grandmother's demise. It featured stylings from 50s and 60s girl groups. The album was an immediate success, and all thanks to Winehouse's work ethic and her charm. The success would quickly become a burden on the young star. Her father, Mitch, revealed that he loved watching her work, saying she had a perfectionism in the studio. Apparently, she would even go as far as to listen to her songs through his taxi radio to see how it sounded on regular sound systems. Mitch wasn't the only one to describe the singer's focus on songwriting this way. The guitarist on Back to Black called her a real, 100% bona fide musician. There were hints of her issues, but there was also a lot of getting down to business. Mark Ronson said about how she wrote one of her biggest hits, Rehab. She was always so fast. She had the whole song on guitar. All it had to do was come up with a nice beat. Her aptitude for the music medium was immense, but unfortunately, her addiction hindered her abilities. In 2007, Winehouse was not doing well. She was deep in her addiction and was even canceling performances in Europe and the UK. She said this was due to exhaustion and poor health, and she was even hospitalized for some time due to her addictive habits. Apparently, she suffered an excess of multiple different substances, which nearly culminated in an early passing. Fortunately, she was able to recover from this, even after thinking it was over for her. Winehouse and Blake Fielder Civil got back together and even spontaneously got married in May of 2007. It was a few months after Back to Black's UK release, and it had just come out in the US a month earlier. Winehouse was fully in the depths of her addiction, which worsened when she reunited with a man who introduced her to the substances she struggled with. Somehow, she grew even more erratic, and her private struggles with addiction became the focus of her entire public presence. The paparazzi had a field day with her behavior and her illnesses. The singer hated the attention, but the presence of photographers was constant. Photographers violated her privacy multiple times, such as when they spotted her wandering near her Camden home in just a bra and jeans, clearly inebriated. They stalked her house constantly just to catch a single image of the singer. But Winehouse wasn't going to take this treatment without some resistance. Winehouse grew so frustrated, angry, and violated by the paparazzi stalking her through the streets and outside her home that she took aggressive action. Not only was there evidence of her engaging in physical altercations with photographers, but in 2008, she went so far as to file an injunction against the paparazzi agency, Big Pictures. The injunction banned photographers from pursuing her, from being within 100 meters of her home, and from photographing her with her friends and family. But the images they did capture showed an alarming side to the singer. On several occasions, the photographers had allegedly captured her while inhaling a destructive substance. At the same time, she stated she'd taken a couple of additional substances, mixing a total of 3. Her vulnerable state drove her father to move into her apartment to keep a 24-hour watch over the singer. She couldn't resist the consumptive impulses of her addiction, but soon after, she decided to go to rehab for 2 weeks. Sadly, not even rehab could save her from a devastating diagnosis. That same year, her father and publicist revealed that she'd been diagnosed with the early signs of emphysema. According to her father, this was the result of inhaling harmful narcotics. Thankfully, she sought treatment for her health, and for a while it seemed like she was on the up. But this was just the calm before the storm. Even her substance dependence seemed to be taking a back seat to her healing. She'd reportedly stopped all use of hard substances in late 2008. When describing her choice to become sober in an interview, she said, "I don't want to do this anymore." Though she'd reportedly been clean from other substances, her consumption of alcohol had continued. 2008 was an important year for Winehouse's career. The release of Back to Black 2 years earlier sent her to new heights of fame and talent. After the US release, the Grammys named her the winner of 5 different categories, including Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist. The 5 awards also meant she got into the Guinness Book of Records for most Grammy Awards won by a British female act. She had the musical world at her fingertips, if only things hadn't gone so wrong. In 2009, the tumultuous relationship that threw her entire life into a downward spiral came to an end. Winehouse and Fielder Civil separated. There seemed to be conflicting reasons why, but there was likely a combination of motivations to end their marriage. Some claimed it was based on the two focusing their relationship around substances, and others claimed it was due to his infidelity. According to one particular source, there were multiple reasons behind their breakup. They finalized the papers for Winehouse and Fielder Civil's divorce in August 2009. This came after the singer stated, "I still love Blake. I won't let him divorce me," which demonstrated her commitment to her husband and her desire to make things work. This came despite her claim that their relationship was based on doing substances. Winehouse's love for Fielder Civil couldn't withstand her illness. Not much could.
Blake Fielder Civil made his claims at the time and has reiterated them since. He claims he filed for divorce due to adultery by an unspecified party, but he also made another statement. He said living with the singer was intolerable with her struggles with addiction and her musician lifestyle. It came as a shock then when rumors circulated that they were looking to reunite merely a year later. Even though it seemed like Winehouse was improving, her reliance on alcohol was constant. She was chaotic and erratic, and her performances reflected that. Though she was recording her third album, she ran into trouble with London officers for public order offenses. Her emphysema also sent her to the hospital alongside pain from her chest implants. It was clear that though she'd given up the harder substances, she was still deep in her emotional struggles. Her performances were a pinnacle of her strange behavior. While in Belgrade, Serbia, her struggles with addiction were on full display. Everybody was shocked she was doing anything, said her label's parent company, Universal. The label canceled the rest of the tour that summer in hopes that Winehouse could go home and recover. But after coming home and being so alone in the face of her fame, her condition took a turn for the worse. 2 days before the discovery of her demise, both her mother and her bodyguard stated that Winehouse was behaving in an intoxicated manner. Unfortunately, with one problem quelled, another arose, and Winehouse focused her attention on alcohol. But aside from that, everything seemed fine, including Winehouse. Winehouse visited her doctor for a routine checkup on July 22, 2011. The doctor had apparently been pleased with the state of her health since Winehouse had been making an increasing effort to take care of herself for a little while now. After their appointment, Winehouse even called him to express a surprising sentiment. The doctor had reported that Winehouse had called after their checkup and confessed, "I don't want to die." She went on to explain how she'd done her best to stay sober, but still struggled to maintain it over a longer period. This was the second to last thing Winehouse said to other people before her passing. Her bodyguard remembers an even shocking statement from the singer. When you get famous as quickly as Amy Winehouse did, the change can be shattering for anyone. Attention from British tabloids, notorious for their aggressive tactics and demeaning headlines, only chipped further away at Winehouse's sense of self and ability to live her life with any normalcy. Combined with her ongoing personal problems, family, romantic partners, and struggles with mental illness, eating disorders, and substance misuse, and it could all seem like being slowly suffocated in full view of the entire world. After her fateful visit with her doctor, Winehouse had one final conversation with her bodyguard, and what she said was absolutely heartbreaking. She told him, "If I could, I would give it back to just walk down the street with no hassle." He was with her while she continued to consume moderate amounts of alcohol, but he didn't note that there was anything out of the ordinary, not until July 23rd. The night of July 22nd, Winehouse had been laughing, listening to music, and watching TV late into the night. Apparently, she was also watching films of her previous performances and enjoyed the trip down memory lane. Little did her bodyguard know that when she went to bed that night, she wouldn't wake up. He tried to stir her up around 10 a.m., but didn't have any success. Initially, her deep sleep didn't concern him, as she often slept in late after being awake the early hours. After leaving her to rest for another few hours, he went to wake her up at 3 p.m., but instead he found her in the same position she was in before, and she wasn't breathing. As panic set in, it seemed like her back and forth with substances was finally at an end. The bodyguard called for an ambulance. The emergency response team took almost an hour to arrive at Winehouse's flat, where they were unable to revive her. A short while later, Metropolitan officers announced her passing. Amy Winehouse was 27 at the time of her departure, which brought her into the same group as musicians like Kurt Cobain and Jimi Hendrix. For exclusive perks like early access to new videos, priority replies to your comments, and to have your say on future content, subscribe to Tales That Tell. On top of that, your support helps keep the channel going. Being a member of the 27 Club was a tragic addition to the singer's career. With her history of substance use, reporters and gossip were quick to assume a combination of different chemicals caused her demise. This was later proved untrue by not one but two coroner's reports. This was first done in 2011 and quickly put into question, but in 2013, Dr. Shirley Radcliffe concluded the cause of the singer's passing was misadventure due to alcohol toxicity. If you enjoyed this Tales That Tell video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.